5 Crazy Glitch in the Matrix Stories. So, back when my husband and I were dating, my husband was in a terrible car crash. His truck hit black ice and he slid into oncoming traffic. His truck was completely totaled. So was the other truck he hit. The weird thing is though, both he and the other guy were completely fine. Not a scratch on them, all my husband had was a bruise on his knee. The first responders were baffled, as was the towing company and insurance when they realized no one had died/was severely injured. Fast forward to a few days after the crash, my husband comes over to my apartment. We're having a conversation about a university class we're both in and he casually asks when I got the flat screen TV sitting on my dresser. At this point I'm very confused because I've had the little flat screen since I was 13 and had it the entire year and a bit we'd been dating. I asked him what he's talking about as I've always had that TV. He told me to quit pulling his leg and asked me what I did with the old tube TV. I had no idea what he was talking about and told him so. He's convinced I had a tube TV. I proceed to get on Facebook and showed him a picture we had taken 2 weeks prior with the TV in the background. It's a flat screen in the picture. My husband goes white like he's seen a ghost and just stares into space for a minute. His eyes started to water. I asked him what's wrong and he said, "I swear to God, I'm not crazy. You've had a tube TV since we started dating. It was a tube TV when we took that picture." I brushed it off as his head being rattled from the accident and he didn't bring it up again. However, anytime we hung out in my room, he'd always look at the TV weird. Fast forward 7 years, my husband and I have been married for a few years and decide that we're ready to be parents. I'm not on birth control and we decide whatever happens, happens. We're not actively trying, but not preventing it either. So we're on vacation in Italy, wandering around Rome and I feel like shit. I had had my period the week before and it was the worst one I had had in my whole life. As we're walking around I am suffering from back pain, chills and horrific cramping. I go to the bathroom in a cafe and hurl my guts out, have diarrhea and realize I'm menstruating, heavily. Obviously I'm weirded out since I had just had my period the week before. I clean myself up, go back to my husband and tell him I think I need a doctor. I have a pretty high pain tolerance but this is insane. It's getting to the point I'm having trouble walking and I'm starting to feel pain in my shoulders. I don't want to ruin our vacation but I'm starting to really worry. My husband is smarter than me, sees the state I'm in and says I'm visibly paler than when I went into the bathroom and gets me help. 20 minutes later I'm on a stretcher and being taken to the hospital. An hour after that I'm being prepped for emergency surgery as doctor tells me I have a ruptured ectopic pregnancy, I have heavy internal bleeding and if he doesn't perform surgery I am going to die. 6 hours later I wake up very sore and tired. Doctor tells me I'm very lucky, and if I had waited any longer to seek medical attention I'd be dead. Husband stays with me in the hospital the first night then gets a hotel for the rest of my stay. A week later we're cleared to fly home and I go through a grueling month of healing from the surgery. 2 months after our return, somehow my husband and I get on the topic of fires and he goes on about the dangers of kitchen fires and I say, "No need to worry, we're all set with the extinguisher in the closet." He looks at me like I have 3 heads and asks me what I'm talking about. I remind him about the extinguisher in the front closet where we keep the coats. We've had it for 3 years. He insisted we buy one when we bought our house. My husband shakes his head and tells me he has no idea what I'm talking about and we don't have a fire extinguisher. I remind him about, not only my memories of fighting about if we really needed one, where to put it, buying it from Home Depot but also installing it to the wall in the closet. He looks at me with confusion and tells me none of that happened. I get up, go to front closet to show it to him all the while cursing him for being an asshole for forgetting our 2-week fight about it and lo and behold, no extinguisher. Not only is there no extinguisher, there's no holes in the wall where I know we installed it. No fresh paint, this wall has never been touched. I insist he's moved it and fixed the wall and ask why the fuck he would play such a stupid prank. He continues to insist we've never had one, let alone talked about getting one. This goes on for several minutes. I'm approaching hysterics, telling him to quit playing with me when finally he says, "Now you know how I feel about that TV." We didn't speak about it for a long time. Then after I found this thread he brought up this theory that perhaps in another timeline/dimension whatever you want to call it, we both actually died and we reset like a video game and the TV and extinguisher are glitches. I don't know if I agree with him. All I know is that I have never been so rattled in my whole life and every time I get something out of the closet I'm overwhelmed with this feeling of wrongness. I know it should be there but somehow it's just not. I can't explain it. He says he will go to his grave swearing I had a tube TV. Backstory: a couple of years back my grandma, She died at 2015 to 2016, was the person I used to love more than anyone. She used to bake cookies and make pies every time we visited her, always was there for us emotionally and physically. Unfortunately, she got really sick. We rented a house in the building I live so we could take care of her. I used to go there after school, play the guitar for her, drink coffee together and do stupid stuff just to make her smile. The last night I saw her, she grabbed my hand and told me looking straight in the eyes, "Remember me and light a candle once in a while for me." I was terrified. I always told her that when I got a car I would drive her around the city and have fun. That she would look amazing in my sports car. Remember this. Now to the creepy part. I went to her grave for the first time after the burial, since it's in a village a few minutes drive away. I went to see my other grandparents and was with my girlfriend. I drove my sports car, 2000 Toyota Celica, past the cemetery and got a weird urge to go in, so I went. I went to her grave, cleaned it and sat there for a while. I found myself talking to her grave. I was feeling like I was talking to her. Anyway, I went back to my car and that's where shit gets odd. My player didn't work since I left the graveyard. My lights wouldn't go on. The car was fine. It was checked 2 days ago. I looked in the rearview mirror and I saw a figure in the distance. It was around 3 o'clock, so the sun was super bright. The next breath I took was full of my grandmother's perfume. I looked back again and the figure was gone. Everything worked well except for my audio. I went back home and everything was fine. Second creepy part, we used to watch a series on the TV when she was at our house while she was playing with my hair. When I was at an Airbnb all alone, the same series was on and the perfume hit me like a punch in the gut and I felt a touch on my head. Third creepy part, I stay with my parents and when I'm alone, mostly, I can always see a figure with edge of my eye, but when I turn to see there's nothing. Fourth creepy part, I heard her voice when I light a candle last night and prayed for her soul to be at rest. I heard her voice. Just saying thank you. Is this a memory glitch? Is this supposed to happen with traumatizing events? I'm in shock. She used to always say that she won't leave me alone. That she would show me she was with me. 20 minutes ago I found an old picture of her. Like when she was in her 30s. I found it in the middle of my desk on my laptop. My mother, father and brother swear they never put it there and my mother has been looking for this picture for the past 3 years. What is going on? Sorry for the long post, but as I said, I'm freaked out. This happened a few years ago, 2016, and I still think of it often. 3 of my friends and I, all university students at the time, were taking a road trip for a weekend. We traveled out of the city, about 2-hour drive into the surrounding bushveld, South Africa. There was an accident on the highway causing bumper-to-bumper traffic that we sat in for more than an hour, driving slower than walking pace. It was a crazy hot day, so all the windows were down, my car's aircon wasn't working, I was driving. And as we were moving slowly, we noticed a car parked next to the road. There was a man and a woman, a little girl, probably like 10 about, and an old lady. So we were driving past them pretty slow. They didn't look to be distressed, so we awkwardly waved and they waved back. We didn't think much of it. A few minutes of slow driving goes by, we are all super cheerful and singing along to road trip songs and being merry, and again there is a car a few km forward from the first one. Exact same car, same color. One of my friends makes a joke about the car brand being shitty and we laugh. But as we pass them, slowly, still in traffic, we all kind of go quiet, because it's the exact same people that we saw a few km back. Mom, Dad, girl, Granny. So there is no way they could have passed us and stopped next to the road again. So we were all a bit freaked out, but it could be a weird coincidence, so whatever. We continue forward. When we saw the exact same car again a few km further was when we really started freaking out. And as we passed them we saw the exact same people for a third time. We just drove past them slowly, not saying anything. But all 4 of us were staring at them and they didn't really pay any attention to us. If I was alone I probably would have blamed my imagination. I've seen a lot of weird shit. But 4 people saw it. All of us saw the same. By the time we got to our destination, all of us were kind of cranky and out of the weekend party mood. It was so weird, trying to make sense of what we saw. To this day all of us agree that the most likely explanation was a glitch in the matrix. Earlier today, I went to an otolaryngologist appointment with a sore throat. At the end of my 30-minute slot, I was sitting at the table across from the doctor, with her writing out the prescriptions. Suddenly there was a knock on the door and, without waiting for a response, a man stepped in. He was tall and slightly stooping, in his 30s of maybe 40s, with balding blonde hair, wearing jeans and a checkered shirt. I guessed he was the next patient in line eager to start his appointment, and only paid him a quick glance before turning back to the table. The doctor called out something to the effect of, "Sir, could you please wait outside? I'll call you back in a few minutes," and resumed writing. The man, however, didn't leave right away, but continued silently standing in the doorway for several more seconds. Then, out of my side vision, I noticed there was something strange going on with his face that wasn't there a moment ago. I couldn't make out the details, so I cautiously gave him another look. What I saw is difficult to put into words. The best I can describe it is, well, a glitch effect, like a corrupt image in a video file. The man's face was now a blob of different shades of pink, misshapen and somehow almost pixelated. I was only able to catch a flash of it, though, as the man quickly turned back to the door and stepped out. As he was turning around, I noticed that in profile his face looked flat and featureless, like that of a Lego figure. This encounter was so unexpected and so unusual, that at first it didn't even register with me as something noteworthy. After a moment's consideration, I figured it must have been a simple brain hiccup on my part due to a lack of sleep, or maybe some weird visual illusion. But then I met eyes with the doctor, who paused, pen in hand, and asked me hesitantly, "Did you see it?" His face. Yeah, I said. And that was that. We didn't discuss it further. She finished filling out my paperwork and I went home, feeling a bit lightheaded. As I left the office, the man was sitting in the corridor outside occupied with his phone. As far as I could see, his face was once again perfectly normal. In university I started hanging around with a group of people who were friends with a guy from my dorm. I didn't consider them close friends but we hung out a bit. One of them was a guy named Carl. He was about 10 years older than me and was a local bartender/bouncer. Carl was a big dude and kinda made me feel uncomfortable, in a potential serial killer kinda way. He was quiet, blunt, and awkward to carry on a conversation with. Carl was the type of person that would make me nervous where I'd feel the need to fill in awkward silences with fluff. Nothing that he did in particular but I wouldn't want to cross him. He just had a dangerous vibe and he was a bouncer. Carl didn't attend university but he had a relationship with a girl named Nadine in our group. Anyway, one night Carl and I went to catch a movie. I can't even remember how that came about but it was just two of us. We were talking for a while and somehow it got onto the topic of me not calling back one of the other people in the group or something like that. I nervously blurted out the person's entire phone number to show that I had it or knew it. Again, Carl made me very nervous and I would say stupid things to fill in the awkwardness of the moment. Anyway, Carl turns to me and says, "That can't be the number. That's Nadine's number." Now at this point my heart sunk and if I could have crawled away from there I would have. Nadine was Carl's off-again/on-again girlfriend. She was a member of these new acquaintances I started hanging around with. Now I never ever called Nadine before in my life. I didn't know what her phone number was. I was never given her phone number nor ever called her. Carl was not joking that it was Nadine's phone number. He wasn't the jokey type. He was totally serious. Somehow I had blurted out the full 7-digit phone number to Carl's love interest without knowing it. I could have literally died. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video don't forget to press like and subscribe.